the Olearia Hectorii, or native tree daisy, is under threat. No, not from people wanting to chop it down, but because all of these trees are granddaddy trees. There are almost no young ones growing up to replace these striking old-timers.
Because they used to dominate these dynamic landscapes, these trees, a lot of insects have evolved to live only in this habitat, live only on this tree, and live only on a small part of the tree. And they're living in all the little micro-habitats within this ecosystem. In springtime, all the leaves come out like small solar panels, a mass emergence of solar panels to gather energy for the tree to suddenly produce huge amounts of flowers, which then are synchronized to the whole flood cycle. So the stream just up here will flood, just produce disturbed ground like this. The seeds will drop in at the right time, the flood event will then cover them over, and then you'll get a mass crop of young Olearia Hectorii.
The Matuki Valley has got quite a big population of Olearias. The only other big population is in Marlborough. So we've got probably 600 to 700 trees in this valley. With the pasture grasses that we have here now and grazing, there's just no way that seedlings are going to be produced on their own. And they need some sort of flood event to get the seedlings.
And the invertebrates are synchronised that whole cycle. They're doing all the different things, from feeding on the flowers, to feeding on the leaves, to feeding in the bark, to feeding on the live wood. They're feeding on, even some are synchronised to feeding on the dead leaves that fall to the ground, because these plants are deciduous. I think 6 different families of moths that are represented here. So they've all got different lifestyles, different ways they hold their wings. Some of them are quite colourful. You know, there's lovely black and white species, and there's green and grey and red, but they stick to their host, and you've really got to come to an Olearia woodland to find them.
And what about some of the caterpillars? You were saying they're a bit like endurance runners.
Because they've got to come out every night and feed up on the foliage, and then make that same trip all the way back as soon as daylight comes. They've got to hide back there because they're not camouflaged here. The birds will find them, the lizards will find them and make a meal of them. They do this repeatedly for maybe 3 months before they've matured into a large caterpillar. Some of the caterpillars are the size of a small finger and produce beautiful moths that have gorgeous names like Metarana grandiosa, Metarana exquisita, the exquisite one.
So if we lose these trees, we lose a whole raft of insects that live here as well.
Absolutely. We lose a lot of bugs, beetles, moths, stick insects particularly.
Although these trees might not seem very familiar to us, we know that they were common when our early European ancestors came along, because they referred to them quite affectionately as swamp gum, and there would have been huge woodlands of them right across the floodplain.